and Adult. My name is Hillary Ritton. I'm the Workforce and Adult Services Consultant at the Department for Libraries and Archives. Today's webinar is Celebrating America250 Kentucky in Your Library, Digital Resources in the State Archives and the Kentucky Historical Society. So in 2026, the United States will celebrate its 250th birthday. So we're going to learn more from colleagues at Kentucky Historical Society and here at KDLA, Elainé Gollihue is the KDLA Electronic Records Archivist, and Alyssa Ollier is the Kentucky Historical Society Digital Archivist. Before we get started, I do want to thank the Institute for Museum and Library Services for offering this webinar. We'll thank them again at the end of this session, but do want to thank them for providing support for this webinar. And now I'll turn it over to Elainé and Alyssa. Thank you both so much for presenting.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Awesome. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us. We are so excited to talk to you a bit about America250th and the resources that KDLA and KHS can offer you in your libraries when you're doing your programming for the 250th. Okay. As Hillary said, I'm Elainé Gollihue. I'm the Electronic Records Archivist here at KDLA. And what that means is I basically work with foreign digital materials, photographs, emails, meeting minutes, things like that. But I also run the Kentucky State Digital Archives. We digitize a lot of historical documents that we have, as well as those foreign digital materials, and put them online into the digital archive. And that is free access. Everybody can visit the KSDA. We can put in a link in there too if you want to visit while we're talking about it. And yeah.
One second. Hi everybody, my name is Alyssa Ollier. Like Hillary said, I'm the digital archivist at KHS here in Frankfurt. And here at the Kentucky Historical Society as the digital archivist, I am responsible for our archival digitization program. I manage our online digital collections, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later today. I'm also our rights and reproduction coordinator, which we'll talk a little bit about more later. So I wear a lot of hats, but basically my job is to take things from the archive and put them online for people to enjoy. So I'm excited to be here to tell you a bit more about what we have at KHS that can help you guys as you plan your 250th programming. And speaking of the 250th, since you all are here on this webinar this morning, you might already be familiar with it. As we're getting towards the end of 2025 and about to start 2026, you've probably heard a little bit about it, but if you don't know, I'll give a quick overview about what we're talking about, what the main goal is today. So America250 is the kind of term for the event of the United States celebrating 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Which obviously was signed on July 4th, 1776, as we all learn in school. So it's America's birthday. So some of you might remember the bicentennial in 1976. This is kind of like that, but just 50 years later, and we're super excited to do a whole bunch of events and programming and things to celebrate. A couple fun facts. So a lot of us just refer to it as the 250th, just for short, but you might also hear the terms sesquicentennial or semi-quincentennial. And those are both, they're Latin-based roots, but they just mean 250 in different ways. So you may see that. And the whole celebration is governed by the America250KY Commission, which is made up of a lot of different folks from around the state. And here at KHS, we have an office that manages a lot of those 250 kind of events. And if you want to learn more about the kind of things that America250KY is doing, if you go to the Kentucky Historical Society website, which I see someone has put the link in the chat already. Thank you so much, Alicia. That's history.ky.gov is going to be our main website. And I'll be talking about that more this morning, so you'll see that link multiple times. If you go to the top of the page, there's actually a whole tab that we've devoted just to America 250. So if you go to that tab, you're going to find things like primary source packets put together by our learning team. You're going to find our statewide events calendar, which you are welcome to submit events to if your library decides to host events that you want to push out to the kind of broader community. There's also information if you yourself or somebody you know wants to start a county committee in your area. So these are small groups of local citizens who are committed to celebrating 250 in their local area. And there's kind of some official documentation and support that comes with that. So there's more information about that and a whole bunch of even more things that I haven't even have time to get into now, but just so many resources, and we'll keep adding to them as we get into 2026 as well. So as we work on the 250th, it's a big thing, right? So 250 years is a long time. A lot has happened in the United States and in Kentucky. And so to kind of govern our events and our programming and how we talk about 250, the America250KY Commission has come up with these themes. And so all of the stuff that you're going to see from KHS, from the kind of official America 250, is going to kind of fall into these main categories. And these can serve as a framework for you as you're working on your own celebrations and your own events. If you just don't know where to start, you have kind of these building blocks to work with. Excuse me. So the first one is the revolutionary experiment. So this is kind of classic 250 that we think about, you know, red, white, and blue, the actual birthday of the nation. Thinking about the founding ideals of the United States and the founding ideals of Kentucky, and how those are the same, how those are different. We're also leading very heavily into discussions about civics education and democracy, and then our specific founding fathers and mothers. So those, you know, George Washington, John Adams, Isaac Shelby, all those folks you kind of think about when you think kind of 250, classic. The next one is kind of expanding a little bit more into we the people. And this is the question of what does it mean to be a Kentuckian? So we want to talk about citizenship, the path to citizenship, what are the rights and responsibilities of being a citizen of this state and of the nation, and also all the kinds of people who have called Kentucky home, who've called the United States home, from Native Americans to different immigrant communities to just everybody who lives here, who is a Kentuckian. We want to highlight those stories and talk about all those different groups in this category. The next theme is called the power of place, and this leans really heavily into that local history. So that's embodied history, that's historical markers, historic buildings, historic homes, different regions of Kentucky. You can even lean into kind of the natural environment. So state parks, natural features that are unique to your region, hikes, preservation projects, things like that. That all kind of comes along with this category. The next one, we're kind of going back to history again. This is called Crossroads in History. This is examining how Kentucky interacts with national events. So how do events in Kentucky get onto the national stage, and then how do national events kind of intersect with the lives of Kentuckians? So, you know, how are Kentuckians involved in the civil rights movement? What Kentuckians fought in the American Revolution? Different things like that, kind of exploring those ties between kind of these broader national stories and Kentucky stories. And then finally, this last one, this is more practical, kind of more related to kind of museums and libraries and archives. This is doing history. So how do we engage with history? So the public interacting with museums, interacting with historic sites, interacting with libraries. How do we do that? And then what can we do going forward, just not only during 250, but after 250, to continue to do history together? And then also historiography, right? So how have we told stories in the past? How have we done history in the past? How are we doing history differently now? And how do we want to do it in the future? And then finally, you know, emphasizing the importance of what we do. Why is history important? Why should we teach it? Why should people care? And remembering that everybody, all of your patrons, all of your staff, everybody in your community, we're all part of history, right? So we're all part of 250, no matter where we're from or what we're doing. So those are all the themes for America 250. And again, all of this is available on the Kentucky Historical's website through that America 250 webpage. And just to give you all some ideas of what to be thinking about as we go through today, or as you kind of go through your 250 planning process, 250 can look like a ton of different things. So here on the slide are just a few examples of things KHS has been getting up to this year. You can do something like a social media campaign. So up there we've got our 76 for 250, which is where we're telling 76 stories from the archives on social media. So if you follow KHS on Facebook or Blue Sky or Instagram or LinkedIn, you will find our stories. We come out with one about once a week, several a month, new stories accompanied by archival materials. So you see up there was one we did on the story of the new state capitol here in Frankfurt. Leaning into that power of place, we've also done historic tours, cemetery tours, walking tours, historical marker tours, things like that can be really impactful. So that's me giving a cemetery tour earlier this year. If you haven't been to the Frankfurt Cemetery, it's a really cool place to be. Another thing you can do is speaker series. So it can be virtual, like the webinar we're doing right now. It can be in person. This is one we did with Secretary of State Michael Adams earlier, I think this year or last year, about civic health and civic education. So Secretary Adams is very passionate about civics education, especially in young people. So we partnered with him to do a talk about that, kind of emphasizing the themes of 250. But you could do anything from local historians, you could do genealogy talks, you really could do whatever you want. That's a really good flexible event to do. And then finally, you can even do exhibits or displays. So exhibits don't have to just be in kind of big fancy museums. Here on the screen, you'll see this is a photo of a really quick and easy library exhibit that me and some of our library team pulled together this year. All you need is just a few kind of acrylic supports, some labels, and a case to put them in that you can lock, and that's kind of it. We've got resources for where you can buy all those things if you are interested in doing that. But it's a good way to highlight interesting things from your collections. And it doesn't even have to be kind of rare or old things too. I mean, you can do a display with local community, art, different things, or you can do a display with your own just kind of regular general stacks books. Anything to kind of show how your collections connect to 250 can be really effective. So that are just some ideas. As you kind of think and percolate as we go through today's presentation, we will have a bit of time for discussion, hopefully at the end, where, if you have some good ideas for what you want to do, we'll have time for you all to kind of share with each other what you might be thinking about doing for 250 at your library. So now I'm going to hand it back to Elainé, and we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of engaging with you all and hearing your thoughts this morning.
All right. So we didn't want this to be a thing where we just talk at you. We really wanted to see who you are, what your roles are in your library. And I think we have a couple of poll questions to help us start that discussion.
Yes, this is
Yes,
Alyssa.
ma'am.
I'm getting those set up right.
Awesome. They are nothing scary, just a couple quick. We're trying to figure out maybe, are you more of a programmer? Do you mainly work in like children's areas, things like that? So once those come up, we will get started. And I guess while we're waiting, there's also,
Yeah,
we can
sorry.
just do,
Polling thing in this system is really awful. So yeah, just give me a couple more minutes.
Oh, you're fine. Well, while we're waiting for the other polls, you are welcome to put the answers to these questions in the chat. I believe number 3, what kinds of content are you most interested in seeing and or using from KDLA or KHS? That's an open answer, so go ahead and put that in the chat if you have any ideas about things you're interested in from the digital archives that you'd like to use or you'd like to know about. Oh, there's the poll. Okay, so we've got some outreach and some reference. Awesome. Something else. If you don't mind, if it's something else, would you go ahead and add that in the chat if we didn't have your exact role? But that's kind of who we thought would be here. Oh, genealogist. Okay. Just general information. Awesome. Well, I know we both have some genealogy resources in our collections and cataloging and special collections. Awesome. Another genealogy. Okay. Okay, I don't know, are we setting up for the second, or we can, I guess, just put it in the chat too. Digital family history resources. Okay, awesome. I guess we can go ahead and put it in the chat if we don't want to do the poll. Does your library have any historical documents in its collection? There it is. Thanks, Alicia. We're just trying to see kind of where your own collections are at. Okay, so about 50-50. Some have, some don't. I know I used to work at a really small public library and we didn't have much, so what counts? I mean, if you count it as historical, um, I'd say that counts. I don't think we have a specific definition. All right, awesome. So we've got some programmers, we've got some genealogy librarians. Thank you for responding. That'll help us kind of steer our discussion into things that would be useful for you. Okay. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Kentucky State Digital Archives. And this is a picture of the home page. So if you click on the link or if you use the QR code and you get that little page, you're at the right website. The Kentucky State Digital Archives is maintained by the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives. This is everything within our collections, both digitized and digital. We have collections ranging from the late 18th century all the way to this year. It's mainly Kentucky documents, but we do have a couple of documents pre-statehood. So technically those are Virginia documents. And we have currently over 130,000 items, a whole lot of pictures, a lot of historical documents. We have videos, we have old radio audio like of Mammoth Cave National Park, the radio announcement for when it became a national park. We have GIFs. It's the longest GIF I've ever seen, but if you'd like a GIF of Kentucky counties as they were formed, we have that. It's about 2 minutes. So we have a whole range of things, and I think maybe when people think of government archive, you think, oh, we just have very boring government documents, and we do. But we also have really fun documents. We have, Kentucky Parks photos. We have a whole section on native frog noises of Kentucky, because I believe that was one of our parks, or one of the natural agencies did a whole series on native frogs in Kentucky, and so we got that. So as long as it's related somewhat to Kentucky and the government and what we're doing, that ends up in the KSDA. Yes, we're going to talk about the WPA photos. I love them too. Okay, so if you're on the KSDA, I show this not to scare you, but just to let you know. We organize our digital archive based on the way that the government itself is organized, because a lot of the people who visit the digital archive are state workers. So they know immediately what cabinet and what agency they're looking for. And it also just makes it easier when we're dealing with government records. It's just kind of straightforward to put it under that org chart. Pack horse librarians. Yes, we have a whole picture collection of them. It's amazing. But if you don't know the org chart of the government of Kentucky, that's okay, because we have a handy dandy search bar. So don't feel like you can't ever find something. Please either use the search bar or reach out. I think I didn't have it in the screenshot, but in the first one, you'll see this little contact us bit up here. If you're ever having any troubles in the KSDA, just click that, put in your contact info, and that will go to a shared email for the electronic records branch, and we will answer your question as quickly as we can and help you find things if you're looking. You'll see we have our search bar up here. I would recommend just leave the metadata out of it. Don't use the advanced search. We're still working on getting that kind of functioning better. but keyword searches in the search bar, you can see I searched for governor, 30,000 records. We can narrow it down a little bit based on if you're looking for images, documents, videos, whatever the type is. And then we can also browse by top level folder. So if you know you're looking for something from a governor that would be from the governor's office, you can go ahead and click that and it'll help filter. It is only available on those top level folders right now. So if you don't know what cabinet or agency it's from, that might not be as useful. Let's see what else. And then over here, we have a little share button, so you can share your search results, or if you click on an item, you can share that item. You can filter how you want it to be sorted, by title, by newest, by oldest. And then you can also change if you want to see, I prefer the squares because you can kind of see the document, but you can also have it where it's just kind of lines, like on a spreadsheet of here's the document name, here's the title. So yeah, we have a little bit of customizability. And then over here, you can see there's a little button that you can favorite things. And then back at the top of the screen, you can click on a button, it'll say favorites. And so everything you favorited will be on that page. Okay, so what do we actually have though? Because I've kind of talked a little bit about it. We've seen the search results. One of the great things that we have being the Government Archives for Kentucky is that we have the executive journals all the way from the very first executive journal, which we have the first page of Isaac Shelby's journal right there. You can see that little first paragraph is talking about that Isaac Shelby just got elected. And then further down, this is his first day, and there's the June 5th. So we have all the way from Isaac Shelby to Wallace Wilkinson's 1991 term. If you're looking for something more recent, the Secretary of State keeps a digital copy on their website. So anything from the 90s forward can be found there, but we have all of the digitized previous to the 1990s. And these are really handy if you're looking for maybe any official acts that they did, whether those be pardons, legislations, any appointments that they had. A lot of the earlier ones have a lot of military records of saying what militias were, visiting or being created, or results of battles would be included in this. We also have the governor's papers. This is not an all-encompassing collection when we have governor's papers. This is usually just what they've donated to us. I mean, I know like KHS sometimes gets things from them, universities sometimes get donations from governors, but these are going to be official government records that end up with us. So any official correspondence that they made, speeches, so you can see at the top left, that's a letter that Governor Buckner received. At the top right, that is, I believe, one of Governor Breathitt's speeches. So we get those. Any proclamations they do. Steve Beshear had a blog, and we have his blog posts saved. And then we also get any official photographs or videos that were taken. So here at the bottom, you can see that's actually not a governor. That's President and First Lady Johnson when they visited Kentucky in the 1960s. And it's considered a governor's record because Governor Breathitt is actually kind of in that photo. He went with them. That one just has him walking behind them, so you can't see. But Governor Breathitt is there, and we ended up getting those photos and digitizing them, and we actually put them online, I believe, last week. So super new. We're very excited about them. I know we had some people say they were interested in genealogy. We recently digitized a lot of our naturalizations. These range from the 1830s all the way to the 1950s. We have records from 22 counties. I will not name them all. And over here you can see a naturalization declaration of intention from Harlan County. I will warn you, Harlan County is the only one that has photographs. But that's why I would like to showcase them, because it's so unique to really not only find information about your ancestors, but potentially be able to see a photograph of them if you've never seen what they look like. And a lot of these digitized records have not been transcribed, so you're going to have to go through them, but they're all available online. And on some of the shorter ones, if there are only maybe 4 or 5 documents in the collection, I did go through and did my best to transcribe any kind of important information. So first names, last names, countries, either the ships that they came over on, anything that I thought maybe people would be looking for. And so you can just download these off of the KSDA. And if you do like a Control F search in Adobe Acrobat, you can go through and find them. They are not alphabetized, but they are in order that they appear. So we tried a little bit. Hopefully one day we can get these fully transcribed. We also have fun things related to Kentucky history. And Alyssa was talking about, you know, some of the themes are about people and land. And of course, the Hatfield-McCoy feud really deals with Kentucky's peoples. We have documents from the 1880s for them. You can see the marriage bond of, I think it's the Johnston Hatfield and Nancy McCoy in the 1880s. We have several requisition orders, we have indictments, we have letters. I have a telegram from the West Virginia governor to the Kentucky governor saying, hey, we got to figure this out, what's going on? And there are several eyewitness testimonies. So if you do go looking into this, it's great. We're hoping to rescan it soon, so it's even better quality, but it can get very graphic because it is eyewitness legal documents where they are telling exactly what they saw and what happened. And it was not a fun or pleasant time. Okay. And I think these got mentioned earlier. I just kind of wanted to show a little bit of the breadth of what we have. And the WPA photographs are a favorite. These photographs were taken from the late 1930s to the 1940s, various locations showing various things. I love this photograph with the airplane and the horses, just showing how much technology had changed. So if you're looking for something maybe from your county or showing Kentucky lifeways or architecture, WPA photographs would be a great place to look. We have everything from pictures of bridge building and coal mining. We have a lot of agriculture. We have a lot of horse material. They were very interested in taking pictures of horse racing and horse breeding. All right. And I just wanted to quickly cover rights and use policy. We have a very kind of open use policy, and you'll see in the blue that is on pretty much every document or item that we have in the archive. We consider everything to be public records. These are public records as defined by the Kentucky state law. Please feel free to consult them or to download them and use them in your displays or exhibits. Just cite where you got them, maybe even link out to where on the KSDA they can access it digitally. You can see I have a couple of examples on this slide and also on the previous slides of how to cite. The only time you really need to contact us, get permission, is for maybe if it's a for-profit. So sometimes we have authors contacting us for use of our pictures on books. So something like that would need to contact us and get approval before it's put into any publication that is meant for profit. And if you have any questions about rights and use, please contact us. I have an email at the end that you can use, and we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Elainé. So we've talked about KDLA and all the amazing stuff that they have there. Now I'm going to take you and talk a little bit more about KHS. So if you don't know anything about the Kentucky Historical Society, we're located right here in downtown Frankfort. We were first established in 1838, and we've been at our current building here at the Thomas D. Clark Center since 1999. In addition to that building, we also manage 2 other sites. So we manage the old state capitol building, which is up there on the right-hand corner. That was Kentucky State Capitol from the 1830s till the new state capitol was open in 1910. And then we also manage the Kentucky Military History Museum, which is that castle-looking thing up there on the hill here in Frankfort. That used to be the State Arsenal building, but it has been a museum since 1973, and we recently just reopened it after some extensive renovations. So if you haven't been to the Military Museum, it is even better now, so come by and see us. Our campuses are all open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then our research library, which is one of the biggest genealogical libraries in the state, and it's also the library where people can access our archival materials. The library is open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5. And then, of course, as we mentioned, our website is history.ky.gov, where we'll post all of our events, all of the stuff that we've got going on, announcements about openings and closings and all that good stuff. So that's KHS for you. And similar to KDLA, we also have a digital collections. Like I mentioned, this is kind of what I am in charge of. Our digital collections website is www.kyhistory.com. And here we have tens of thousands of materials, everything from digitized photos to manuscripts, maps, printed material like pamphlets, a large postcard collection from all over Kentucky, and also some of our oral histories. So we have the Kentucky Oral History Commission as one of our kind of things that we do here at KHS. And our oral histories, we kind of have in multiple different places, so we're working on improving access to them, but some of the collection can be accessed through this website, and if you have more specific oral history questions, I can give you the contact info for our oral historians, and they can help you more with that. But all of our materials, I have a couple examples here on the slide for you to kind of see just some of the things that we have. Everything that you see there can be downloaded or printed. So those are the buttons. That's what they'll look like if you go and look at the images on the website. And I'll talk a little bit more about our rights and reproductions policy in a minute about kind of our restrictions and usages for those digital things. But you can use those buttons to download the files. Only about 5% of our archival collections have been digitized, so we have hundreds of collections consisting of thousands of linear feet here at KHS. We've been collecting for many decades, but part of my job is to get more things online. So just yesterday I uploaded new things. I try to get new things up kind of every month based on what people want, what people are interested in, what staff needs are around here. So there's always something new to check out on the digital collections. And again, that's kyhistory.com. And I'll kind of walk you through a little bit about how to navigate that site. So when you go there, this is what it's going to look like. Similar to the KSDA, we also have a handy dandy search box. It's right there up in the top right corner. You can treat this a little bit kind of like a Google search box. So you can type in keywords, surnames, last names, place names, just kind of general topics. But it is also kind of a wonky search bar. So if you know how to use Boolean searches or kind of quotation mark punctuation in your searches, that's actually more effective because our search can get a little sensitive and it might return too many options for you unless you kind of drill down and get more specific in your searches. And we do have an advanced search feature that can help with that as well. And then here on the front page, this is kind of the home page of the website. You'll see we've got things organized by type of thing. So we have all of our finding aids for our physical collections, as well as manuscripts, oral histories, maps, all kind of broken out by type. And then some of our larger collections, like you'll see the Churchill Weavers collection there at the bottom. We've separated those out into kind of their own thing just because they have so much content and they're kind of unique. So as you scroll down the page, you'll see some of those larger collections as well. Once you do a search, so here for just an example, I've typed in American Revolution as a search term, and you can see all the results will pop up here. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see our filters that will help you kind of get even more granular in the stuff that you're seeing. So the most important one is up here on the Collections tab. You can decide which of those collections you want to search. So here, I'm saying I only want to see digitized things, and I'm only interested in manuscripts, oral histories, and pictures, so visual materials. So I've checked all those. I said I don't want any finding aids, so I unchecked that. I don't want any pamphlets or anything, so I've unchecked that. So if you're having trouble finding things, it's usually because you haven't checked or unchecked the right collections over here, so always check that. And then also we utilize linked data in our records. So you'll see we've got a creator field. We also have Library of Congress subject headings, date fields, and place names. So as you go into a record, you'll see anything that's blue is clickable. And if you click on it, it will take you to all other things that's related to that person. So here, these are kind of specific, but let's say we had multiple things related to George III. If you clicked on that, it would bring you to kind of all the George III things that we have. Right now, we just have one, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then, of course, you can scroll down. You can change how you are viewing the results. You can really kind of customize this to your heart's content. And like Elena, if you're having trouble with finding anything, please let me know. You can contact me, and I'd be happy to search for you because it can get a little tricky sometimes. So I want to highlight a couple things that we have here in our digital collections that might be especially interesting to you as we get into 250 planning. So the first thing is that the Kentucky Historical Society is fortunate enough to be the repository for all the official original copies of Kentucky's constitutions. So we've actually had 4 constitutions. So we've had the 1792, 1799, 1850, and 1891. And the 1891 Constitution is that constitution that we're still governed by today. And there are existing first copies of the 1792, 1799, and 1891. Our copies of the 1850 are only printed, but we have 1850 editions of that 1850 Constitution. This is a little display that I made where I kind of put them all out on a table so you can kind of see them all. But that 1792 one is going to get a lot of interest and play as we get into 250, just because it is the founding document of Kentucky. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about it. So its official collection number is MSS 145, and it's probably going to be on physical display here at KHS starting next year. So if you've never seen it in person, try to stop by sometime in 2026, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. But it is fully digitized, so it's all on the digital collections. It's fully transcribed. It's a super high DPI, so you can zoom in and kind of get up close and personal with it. It's very popular with teachers, very popular with students. We love our Constitution. Till very recently, our logo was even based on the front page of the Constitution here, although we recently rebranded, so you won't see that anymore on our materials. But for some background, so the first Constitutional Convention for Kentucky began on December 27, 1784 in Danville, and there were 9 more conventions after that to decide how Kentucky was going to govern itself and what that Constitution was going to say. That first Constitution was adopted June 1st, 1792, which is just a few days before Isaac Shelby starts his executive journal, right? And this establishes Kentucky as the 15th state. Excuse me. And then this document was written in the handwriting of Thomas Todd, who was the clerk of the convention. And also in that our MSS 145 collection, we have the convention journals from the 1788 to 1792 constitutional conventions. Sorry, I have a wonderful 2-year-old daughter, but she is kind of a walking germ factory, so please excuse my respiratory illness here. Anyway, so we love the Constitution collection. Another cool document we have, like I mentioned, is we have actually a document from George III, who was King of England during the time of the American Revolution. And this document dates from November 10th, 1783. It's actually related to the Hessian mercenaries. So it is authorizing payment to the Prince of Waldeck, who was the part of the Holy Roman Empire at the time, which later becomes Germany. And this is him kind of authorizing payment to that prince for a group of Hessian mercenaries. So this is not the only item related to the American Revolution that we have in the collection, but it's one of our most recently digitized ones. I scanned this earlier this year. I just think it's very cool because it's that kind of crossroads of history, right? So it's showing kind of, we have this in our collection, so it's not really a Kentucky connection because it's not really about Kentucky, but you know, we have this document in our collection, and it connects us to that larger story of the revolution, and then even into kind of European geopolitics too. So I really, really love this document, and we're super lucky to have it. And its number is FF 1.56 if you're interested, and that is also available on the digital collections. So KHS is not only an archive or a library, we're also a museum. So we have many exhibits and a large object collection. And so we have other catalogs besides the digital collections to kind of help you make sense of it all. So if you go to that history.ky.gov again, and you go to the top of the page, there's a tab where it says Explore, and underneath that it says Catalogs and Research Tools. This is going to be that kind of main access point for all of our research catalogs. So digital collections is what we just talked about. Library catalog is going to be anything in our library, so general stacks books, microfilm, a lot of family history type stuff will live in that library catalog. And then also we have archival or catalog entries for our archival collections as well. And then finally, the objects catalog. This is how you access our 400,000 plus objects that we have here at KHS. People always ask us, like, why is our building so big in Frankfurt? We take up multiple city blocks. It's because we have a very, very extensive object collection. So if you want to see what we have there, you can go to the object catalog, which is a searchable database of all of our catalog museum objects. And these can be anything from textiles like quilts and things like that to posters, artwork, tools, personal belongings, clothing, also artifacts, machines, and even vehicles. So we have full-size cars, tanks, all kinds of crazy things, all in our collection. And everything that's cataloged will have a record with pictures of that object, as well as a description and some historical notes, and then that linked data again. So subject headings, different terms to kind of further explore more. And all of these images can also be downloaded, and on there on your screen is a picture of what that download button looks like. And I just have some examples of some kind of Revolution era or relevant items on the screen there for from our object catalog. And real quick, I'll kind of highlight just a couple object collections that might be interesting to you related to the kind of Revolutionary period. So this is our Lafayette Ball dress. So if you visited us earlier this year, we actually had this on display at the Old State Capitol in the spring. The reason we call it that is because with the Marquis de Lafayette, who's a Revolutionary War hero, friend of George Washington, you might know him from the musical Hamilton. He did a victory tour of the United States in 1824 to 1825 and spent fairly extensive time in Kentucky visiting multiple places, including Frankfurt and then Lexington and a bunch of other areas. He also stopped in Shelbyville. And so everywhere he went, there were balls and parties and dinners and all kinds of things to kind of welcome and celebrate him. And so this dress was actually worn to one of those balls that was given in Shelbyville in 1825. It was worn by Sarah Louise Lane Powell, who lived from 1806 to 1830. And it's especially cool, not only because it's in a beautiful condition of preservation, but also because the fabric actually dates from the 1780s. So it was made from a dress that belonged to her mother. That was part of her mother's wedding trousseau. Her mother got married in the 1780s. And so it's kind of an example of that pre-statehood era, a textile, which is very, very rare. And we recently just had it professionally conserved. So it's one of our treasured objects, and we love it very much. So you can look at it and see many more pictures of it in that object catalog. And then finally, another object is the Calk collection. So William Calk is an early settler in Kentucky. He lived from 1749 to 1823. We have other settlers in the collection as well, like Daniel Boone and Simon Kenton, but Calk is interesting because we have objects related to him. So he was a surveyor, like many early settlers. So we have his surveyor's tools. We have a very cool compass that you can see down there. We have his surveyor's chain. And then we also have an associated archival collection. So we have things like the first survey he made of Boonesboro, which was the first one of the first white settlements in Kentucky. We have his diary. We have many more archives. And then on the object side, we have even more kind of early statehood kind of settlement period objects, such as medical tools, cooking utensils, personal belongings, kind of trunks, eyeglasses, things like that, to really give you kind of a sense of like what life on the quote unquote frontier would be like. So that's really fun to explore in the objects catalog, kind of all the William Calk materials. All right, so I said I'd talk about rights and reproduction, so we'll get into that here. So like I said, I'm the Rights and Reproduction Coordinator for KHS, and so unlike KDLA, not all of our material is considered public record, so we have a little bit of a system to govern usage. I've made a little chart for you here. So anything that is considered educational use, so use by students, teachers, if you all are going to do a free educational program at your library, things like that, or just personal research, so somebody's doing genealogy and they need a resource. All of that totally free to use. Feel free to download whatever you like and use it to your heart's content. That's totally fine. We also really want to encourage social media use. So that's with credit, of course. But if you want to make a Facebook post, Instagram, anything like that, you want to use a KHS item in that, go for it. And we'd love hyperlinking. So please link back to the original item if possible with a little citation. But please post about our stuff. We love the kind of exposure. Presentations, if you're going to be doing a conference, a research poster, an academic lecture, Like I said, those kind of programming type lectures and you need a visual aid for a PowerPoint or a poster, go for it. Feel free to download whatever you like. We want to encourage kind of academic research as much as possible. Similar to KDLA, if you are going to publish our material, so things like scholarly journals, books, websites, YouTube videos, documentaries, films, all of that stuff that's kind of a publication, that is something that we do want you to ask permission for, and we may have some publishing fees associated with that depending on that usage. All of our files that are available online, so things that you download yourself, those are going to be free. But we do have high resolution master files that I'm in charge of, and if you want access to those master files, we do charge a fee per file to get that kind of high res version. But the versions that are online, totally free, go for it. And then our example credit line is always going to be Kentucky Historical Society, so not KHS, just our full name, Kentucky Historical Society, and then the object number or a session number. So every object is going to have a number associated with it, or the collection is going to have a number. We just want that specific citation so that if somebody sees it out there on the internet or on a website or something, that they know kind of where you got it from and they can come talk to us so we can help them get it too. So that's just kind of a breakdown of our R&R. And if anybody wants these slides later, we can definitely make sure you have them so you have this. Our R&R information, of course, is also available on our website. So I've put a little like a sitemap there at the top for you. So you go to history.ky.gov again, this KHS for me at the top, and then you'll get an option that says for researchers, and then finally collection rights and reproduction. I realize that's kind of confusing, but that's how you'll find this web page, and this is the page that tells you kind of everything that I just told you. It'll link to our fee schedule, and then it'll link to our request form. So somebody asked earlier, I think, like, how do you ask for permission? How do you ask for those high-res copies? At KHS, you'll use this collection duplication request form. That will come to me, and I will process that for you and tell you about, what kind of quote you might need, and we'll talk about payment or, whether it'll be free or not, all that good stuff. But just always use the form. Even if you're not sure if you need permission, it's better to always err on the side of asking, just so I can make sure I'm getting you the best, possible information and the best possible file for your needs. And I can always send this link out as well. So that's R&R at KHS. And then we talked a little bit about copyright earlier. So again, like KDLA is most of it's public record, but you do have to keep in mind copyright. So just like KDLA at KHS, we also say that the user of our material is responsible for fulfilling copyright law. So we are not responsible for any copyright infringement. I can point you to some resources if you want to learn more about how copyright law works, but that onus of fulfilling the requirements of copyright law is going to be on the people who use the material. But I also want to talk about just two more kind of concepts for copyright that might come up that would help you if you're looking for kind of easy to use things. So the first thing, this is going to be the material that's in the public domain. So public domain means that the material belongs to everyone with no copyright or restriction. So it gets very complicated. Copyright law and public domain gets kind of very granular. I've got some resources if you want to get really into the weeds. But in general, published works that were published before 1930 are going to be in the public domain. And that's kind of a rolling kind of year, I guess. I guess technically it's 1929 right now, but next year it'll be 1930. And then every year it kind of moves up by a year based on when that thing was made. So anything before 1930, probably going to be public domain. You should be good to use it. Things that are unpublished, so kind of manuscripts, different things like that, these are going to be public domain 70 years after the death of the author or creator. If you don't know who that is or when they died, it's 120 years from the date of creation. So that's a really long time. I won't get into the history of copyright law. It's a very interesting story of how we got here, but this is the current law in the book, so that's just kind of how we govern whether something's public domain or not. And then, of course, works of the U.S. government are all also in the public domain. Another term you might hear a lot is open access. So this is very trendy in the museum archive world right now. Open access means that copyright has been waived by an institution. So if they had any copyright, they're deciding that it doesn't matter, and they're dedicating that work to the public domain, and that material is then free to use without any permission at all for whatever purpose you want. A couple institutions recently have gone public domain or open access, one of which being the Smithsonian Institution and also the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. These are really, really, really great repositories just for artwork, for images, just anything you want to use. They both have open access browsable databases, so that's really, really exciting. hopefully more museums will kind of go in the open access direction. But if you're just looking for other places to look besides KDLA or KHS, those two are great. And then, of course, the Library of Congress, most of their material, since they are a library of the U.S. government, most of their stuff is going to also be in the public domain. So they're a fantastic resource as well. They're a little bit hard to use, but they have literally millions of resources. So LOC is great. And there's a couple other places as well. So if you want to talk more about open access, feel free to get in contact with me afterwards. But I think that might be everything I have to say about copyright. And we'll move into our conclusion now. Elena?
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that. So, quick conclusion here. Both KSDA and the KHS catalogs have resources for you to utilize to celebrate the 250th, or just in your everyday non-250th work. I know we both love to be useful. I mean, that's the whole point that the KSDA exists, is to be used. So please make my job have a point and use our materials, because otherwise I'm just uploading them and they won't be seen, and that's sad. Something that's really unique, and I'm so glad that we got to do this together, is that our catalogs are separate. We are separate agencies, but KHS has the Constitution. We have the executive journals. I think when you combine our resources, it turns into a really nice conversation, and a fuller picture of Kentucky history and Kentucky life. And just a really quick reminder, if you're looking for specific government records that were published or created by government agencies, specifically Kentucky agencies, that would be at the KSDA. If you're looking for specific governor records as well, that would be at the KSDA, as long as it is, again, within their term as a governor. So those official papers and photographs and records, any personal papers can go wherever they would like. And the KHS catalogs have historical images. They have so many family and genealogical collections. I know I've used them for our work for the First Lady's exhibit we did. They're an awesome resource. And they have those artifacts and object catalogs, which are also really, really interesting and very useful, especially when we're talking about things like 250th programming. So that's kind of all we have, and we thought that we would invite you to share with us what are your libraries doing for the 250th, and feel free, you can either unmute or you could put it in the chat, but we're really interested to see kind of what everybody's doing.
And I don't know if you all, this is Hillary, I don't know if Elena and Alyssa, you were able to see which libraries are represented, but I wrote down just, and I know I didn't catch everybody, but Paul Sawyer in Frankfort, Bullitt County, Perry County, Nelson County, and Taylor County are at least some of those represented. So any kind of resources that you know of, Elena and Alyssa, that could connect with those or highlight could be of use as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know, so KHS collections were obviously very Frankfurt heavy, just given where we are. So definitely for Paul Sawyer, and then you, Paul Sawyer, you guys have amazing collections as well. We have a ton of stuff related to especially local Frankfurt history. Nelson County, I know we have a good chunk of stuff too. And of course, I think a lot of the stuff that I think about recently is a lot of Civil War stuff, obviously. But there's definitely more resources. I'll have to look for the other counties, but we definitely have something or other for every county in Kentucky. Obviously, some counties are going to have stronger representations than others, but we have, and also in the library too, so these are not digitized. I should have mentioned these earlier. We have the what we call our county files and our surname files. These are especially helpful for genealogy research. So we have a file on every single county in Kentucky, and then we have a file on all of the primary surnames of all the families who calls Kentucky home. And so if you want to know how you can access those, whether in person or, we can do photocopies or kind of virtual access, please let me know and I can give you more information about that, because that can be super helpful as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alyssa answered it very well. Again, we have a whole lot for Franklin County, of course. That's where we're located. But I know we have Nelson County off of the top of my head, and I'll have to look into the other counties. But like I said, we just have the naturalizations. We have a lot of other documents that we didn't get to touch on, and I can always look. Okay, Taylor County. Ooh. I'm gonna do a quick look actually and see what pulls up for Taylor County.
While Elena is searching, so I did a quick little search in the digital collections, and it looks like we've got a large African American heritage oral history collection on our digital collections about since Campbellsville and Taylor County. So I'll put a link to these in the chat, but that could be really, really interesting, I think. Awesome. We're seeing people in the chat kind of give us some of their ideas of what they're doing. So partnering with the Campbell's University History Department on a lecture series, that's fantastic. That was kind of what we talked about with those partnerships on national, state, and local history. Excellent. Bullitt County, the DIR will display items in 2 glass display cases during June and July. That's amazing. So yeah, we a lot of the times will see DIR as a partner, especially for stuff like this. That's fantastic. Let's see, planning a discussion based on books that shaped America. Oh, I don't know about this. That's really cool. I'm going to have to check that out after this. But yeah, there's a Library of Congress resource for us, right? So like obviously all of the, like there's a federal 250 as well that they're doing a ton of stuff too. The National Archives is doing stuff. Library of Congress is doing stuff. These are all awesome.
I'm going to put in the chat, this is Hillary, I'm going to put in the chat email addresses for Alyssa and for electronic records, and so that if you want to connect with either, you can do that. And I'm also going to put in my email address if you want me to help connect you with directly. I'm happy to do that as well. I'm already excited to see what you all are doing. So Kristen, you have a question. Do you want to?
Yes. Well, so because I'm in Frankfurt, it's kind of like trying not to overstep, or not really overstep, but like, what's the phrase? There's, because we have, you know, the public library, I don't know what we're doing. I'll have to go investigate. But it's also like we have KDLA, we have KHS, we have the Capital City Museum, we have all these great institutions that it's kind of like, how do we make it unique to the public library component without, not overshouting, but you know, like there's a lot of institutions here.
Yeah, no, I completely, yeah, we get that sense as well. So yeah, like Elena said, that's why I was so excited about this kind of partnership for this webinar, because it is funny, we all occupy the same geographical space, but like there just hasn't, I mean, we have collaborated in the past and there are opportunities for collaboration, but it is kind of interesting to see how we're all going to kind of mark out our little bounds and how do we do things that don't, you know, overlap too much. Or I think collaboration would be really cool. Our 250 group here at KHS is amazing. We've got a lot of programming on the docket already, so like I don't know how many kind of new things, but if you guys have ideas that you want to talk about, or if there are ways that, you know, we can help you, or if there are ways that you want to help us with what we've already got going on, I think that would be really cool for us to work together. I think also like leaning really into that local history could be really cool for you guys. So I love your all's like Frankfurt Heritage series, like the talks you guys already host, I think are fantastic. And that's something you all do really well. I think stuff like that would be a way for you all to kind of have your own unique arena. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's something that I think about a lot too. And we're trying to kind of figuring it out as we go, I guess, as we see kind of where we all are. In this Frankfurt space. I hope that was helpful.
Really quickly before, sorry, I'm going to switch gears just really quickly,
okay,
but we can continue the conversation. Just want to thank again the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which provides funding actually for both of our agencies, and for providing this funding for this webinar. And I'll quickly put Alyssa and Elena's slide back up, but thank you to the Institute Museum and Library Services, and I'll put their slides back up that has their contact information. Thank you both, Elena and Alyssa, and then thank you all who came and participated in this webinar, shared ideas. It is, you are welcome to contact me and we can brainstorm. Kristen, I appreciate what you were saying too, and I think about even talking about the history of how your library has developed, how it was formed, what could potentially talk about in literacy in your community, and how the library has played a role in literacy and shaping the civic mindset of Frankfurt and so forth could be another angle to take. That's just my 2 cents, but thank you all so much. This has been, for this history nerd, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'll speak really quickly. Sorry, I don't want to. If anyone needs to hop off, that's fine. But just kind of addressing a few more things. So yes, the history of the Paul Sawyer Library is fantastic, and I know there's a lot of kind of women's history in there as well. We have a few things that could be interesting in that regard. And of course, your namesake Paul Sawyer. We've been doing a lot of Paul Sawyer digitization here at KHS. So we have the Ellen Winkett Sawyer scrapbook, which is like the whole history of the entire Sawyer family. And then we recently just found her cookbook, which had been previously undiscovered. So like, please, if you want to do things about the Sawyer family, like not just Paul, but kind of all of them, please hit me up because I've been doing a lot of work with that, and I would love that to get some play. I saw somebody shared about the Hawaii kind of reading the Constitution, America's Potluck event. Our America250KY is going to be participating in that campaign, so please, thank you for sharing that link. Watch our events page. We will definitely be participating in that. And then I saw an idea, a birthday party for America. Love that. That's such an easy lift. That's a really, really great idea. So just couple more comments. Thank you all so much.